Plus, he was audacious. I mean, he escaped prison twice. He was clever. He was arrogant. I think that's what captivated everybody.
Charismatic. Even the people around him seemed to like him, which is
and he didn't look like a serial killer.
Very seductive.
But in fact, maybe he actually is more of a serial killer in type than we would have expected. Your dad, another infamous serial killer, the happy face killer, he may have been influenced by Ted Bundy. Is that possible, do you think?
Absolutely. I used to, as a young girl, sit on my dad's lap at night when he'd come home from work and we'd watch crime television. He would study and figure out like how to get away with the perfect murder. He actually brought that up several times when I was a teenager, like, I know how to get away with the perfect murder. And I think it's just he just studied just to see like where they messed up, where were the errors in their judgment, where did they go wrong. And my dad even had a code of rules of how he would operate his murders, one being that he wouldn't murder anybody close to him, and he kicks himself for actually murdering his former fiance, because that is ultimately how he was arrested.
Also a handsome man, a charismatic man, your dad. So it starts to change what we think about these folks. How can they be so brutal on one side of their personality, but like all the rest of us? Which is, again, what's so unsettling, because all of us might have a little bit of that in us. Besides Ted Bundy's brutal rapes and murders, there's another aspect of his story that shocked the world when it happened. Ted Bundy, listen carefully, got married in the courtroom where he was representing himself and facing the death penalty. While doing all that, he and his wife were able to have a daughter while Ted was on death row. It's unbelievable. And Ted's wife was one of his character witnesses, Carol Ann Boone. Melissa, how did they meet? This is such a bizarre story.
I know, it is bizarre. But they met back in 1974. They met in Washington State. They were working together, so they were office mates. And it was purely platonic. Although Ted wanted a relationship with her, she didn't want a relationship with him. It wasn't until he was incarcerated in Utah that they started corresponding via letter. And that's when their friendship turned more romantic. And ultimately, when he was in trial in Florida, that's when things heated up between the two, to the fact that they got married.
So I'll get into her in a second, but I want you to take a look at the very unconventional way that Ted Bundy, this is how clever he was, and Carol Ann Boone got married. I mean, let's explain what we just heard there. Is it that simple? You get married because you say in court that I want to marry you?
I thought it was a joke at first when I watched the video footage of it, because it's so ridiculous that this old law in Florida would make it so that if you confess or you stated in front of a judge that you wanted to be married, and so there it is. You just have to say it in front of a judge, and then it's official.